Welcome to ZoomInData. In this video, we will deeply understand linked services in Azure Data Factory. Linked services form the foundation of any Azure Data Factory pipeline. Without linked services, pipelines cannot access or move data at all. This video is designed to explain linked services in a very simple, detailed, and beginner-friendly way so that anyone can understand clearly. A linked service in Azure Data Factory represents a connection to a data source. It tells Azure Data Factory exactly where the data is located and how it can be accessed. It also defines authentication details such as usernames, passwords, keys, or managed identity. An important point to remember is that linked services never store actual data. They only store connection information. Linked services are extremely important in Azure Data Factory. Every dataset depends on a linked service, and no activity can run without it. Linked services provide secure access to data sources and allow pipelines to be reused across environments. If linked services are designed properly, managing and scaling pipelines becomes much easier. Think of a linked service like a power socket. A dataset is like an electrical appliance, and an activity is the action you perform using electricity. Without the power socket, the appliance cannot work. Similarly, without a linked service, datasets and activities cannot function in Azure Data Factory. Azure Data Factory supports many types of linked services. These include Azure data sources like blob storage and Azure SQL, on-premises data sources like SQL Server, third-party and SaaS services, and even compute services used for data transformation. Azure Data Factory provides linked services for various Azure data sources. These include Azure Blob Storage, Azure Data Lake Storage, Azure SQL Database, and Azure Synapse Analytics. These linked services allow seamless integration within the Azure ecosystem. Azure Data Factory can also connect to on-premises data sources such as SQL Server and file systems. To do this, a self-hosted integration runtime is required. This setup enables hybrid data movement between on-premises systems and the cloud. Azure Data Factory supports linked services for SaaS and third-party platforms such as Salesforce, Amazon S3, Google Cloud Storage, and REST or HTTP services. This makes Azure Data Factory a powerful integration tool across different platforms. Linked services support multiple authentication methods. These include account keys, usernames and passwords, service principals, and managed identity. Choosing the right authentication method is critical for security and maintainability. Managed identity is one of the most secure authentication options. With managed identity, no credentials are stored in Azure Data Factory. It is highly recommended when accessing Azure resources because it simplifies security management and reduces risks. A linked service defines connection details, while a dataset defines the structure of the data. Simply put, linked service answers where the data is located, and dataset answers what the data looks like. One linked service can be reused by multiple datasets. This reduces duplication of configuration and makes environment switching easier. Reusability improves maintainability and reduces errors in large projects. In real projects, the same pipeline is used across development, test, and production environments. Only linked service values change between environments. This approach supports C/CD practices and enables safe and controlled deployments. To create a linked service, go to Azure Data Factory Studio and navigate to the Manage section. Select Linked Services and configure the connection details and authentication method based on the data source. Always test the connection before saving a linked service. Testing confirms that authentication details are correct. This simple step prevents runtime failures and saves a lot of debugging time later. Common errors include invalid credentials, network or firewall issues, incorrect integration runtime selection, and missing permissions. Understanding these errors helps troubleshoot issues quickly. Security best practices include using managed identity wherever possible, avoiding hard-coded secrets, restricting access permissions, and rotating credentials regularly. These practices keep your data pipeline secure. Performance depends on choosing the correct integration runtime and placing resources in the same region when possible. Reducing unnecessary connections and monitoring usage also improves overall pipeline performance. In a real-world scenario, data may come from an on-premises SQL server and move to Azure Data Lake. In this case, 2 linked services are required, and the pipeline connects them to move the data successfully. The key takeaways are that linked services define data connections, they are required for all pipelines, and security and reuse are critical. Proper linked service design simplifies large projects significantly. After watching this video, try answering these questions. What is a linked service? Why are linked services required? What is the difference between a linked service and a dataset? And why is managed identity recommended? Thank you for watching this video. Subscribe to ZoomInData for more detailed Azure Data Factory and data engineering tutorials. Like, share, and support the channel. ZoomInData helps you learn Azure step by step with real-world explanations. Our content is designed for both beginners and professionals.